Dipper and Mabel have graduated high school. Instead of going to his dream school, Dipper decides to go with Mabel to community college. Though they made a promise to stick together after the original series, Mabel wants to become more independent, while Dipper still wants to fulfill that original promise. There's a new phenomenon happening in Gravity Falls called anomalies. As opposed to regular creatures that lurk about, anomalies are dangerous and attack the public. A special government force is sent in to take care of such things, all while their leader, Agent Smith, has it out for our band of heroes. Dipper and Pacifica are now a thing. Seuss has been secretly communicating with the mysteriously absent Ford and Stanley. After the group finds out, they find their Gronkles hiding in another dimension. On their way past security, Mabel accidentally confesses that she doesn't want Dipper to go to college with her. Once they're in the other dimension, they see Stanley hooked up to an operating table. I'm sorry it took so long, but hey, we're finally here. Before we begin though, I want to start out by addressing a couple comments and concerns that I got in my last video. There were a few things I didn't do the best job of explaining, and also there was a couple of ethical concerns that I want to address here. The first one was a comment saying how the agent's organization needs to be called FACT. However, I'm going to have to add an S to it. Federal Anomaly Containment and Termination Service. The comment came from this guy right here. Badass work, my dude. The second one I wanted to address was I got several comments saying that what I was making was actually a sequel and not a reboot. And to be honest, I'm like, really? Come on. Sequel, reboot, at this point, those terms are basically interchangeable. Same thing with the new Phineas and Ferb season that just came out. Yes, it's technically a sequel, but come on, it's a reboot as well. Hollywood has shown us it's possible to be both simultaneously. Also, one of the most popular comments I got on the last video was the use of AI images. People did not like those. I honestly didn't really think much of it at the time because, I mean, this is just essentially glorified fanfiction on YouTube, but I get how people don't want to have any AI in anything ever. So from here on out, I'm going to be drawing everything that I can to the best of my abilities, but if it's a little wonky, I mean. Another complaint that I got was not properly crediting the models that I used for my pitch, which I really want to apologize for. That was like such a move on my part. They're credited now in my part 1 video as well as this one. If you guys could go follow their pages and everything and like all of their work, that would be much appreciated. Now for clarifications on some plot points. I saw one comment asking why the town has embraced its weirdness and yet are put off by Summerween. Also, in addition, what is an anomaly compared to the strange creatures that are already in Gravity Falls? That's a good question. What I meant by the town embracing its weirdness is basically the creatures that fought alongside them in Weirdmageddon, like the gnomes, the manitars, the multi-bear, stuff like that. The issue people had with Weirdmageddon was the fact that most of the creatures that were there present came from the Nightmare Realm. They were like particularly scary and horrifying. So it's basically just a level of weirdness and scariness the town is willing to accept. As far as what the difference is between an anomaly and just a regular creature within Gravity Falls, I would just say it's like the sheer horror it brings, and also by its inherent threatening nature. I mean, these things are like going out of their way to like attack people and cause like serious amounts of damage. I know there's tons of weird stuff not only in Gravity Falls but all over the world thanks to the canon already shown in the show, but these anomalies I specifically make different, and the weird thing is they're only happening within the town. Okay, so I guess going forward, I just want to reiterate just a couple things. This is just a basic pitch. This is not going to be an episode by episode pitch because that would just take hours. So with some of the storylines and plot beats, you're gonna have to bring your own interpretation to it. All right, and I guess that's it. Without further ado, here's my part 2 pitch for a Gravity Falls reboot. What do you mean we have to run? Ford starts running around collecting supplies they need. You've been followed. Agents will be here soon and they pose a threat to everything I'm trying to do. Well, what are you doing to Stanley? What the heck is this place? And why didn't you reach out to us all this summer? Ford stops and lets out a sigh. Kids, you don't know the... Suddenly, an alarm buzzer goes off as the doors to the room Stanley was in begin to open. Ford runs past everyone with McGucket to the table where Stanley lies. Stanley! Stanley, can you hear me? Stanford? Of course I can! You're like 2 inches from my hearing aids! Stanford hugs him until he turns his attention to the creatures. Did you extract it? It's all here. We see a container of a glowing yellow substance. Every last trace is gone. Good, because we're on a rush schedule. Can I trust you to dispose of it? Of course, with his luck. Stanley looks around the room. He notices the kids. Wait, kids? You're here? Stanley almost sheds a tear seeing them, but then quickly is overtaken by anger. What are they doing here, Stanford? They broke in. We didn't invite them, I swear. Look, I know emotions are high for everyone, but like I said, we need to go before the agents are in the mansion. We see a monitor with federal agents storming the halls of the Northwest Mansion, and since the group destroyed the computer, they can easily make their way into the portal room and find them. Wait, why can't we just talk with them? Let's get out of here and say it was a misunderstanding. We've been dealing with them all summer. They're jerks, but we can talk things out. No, we can't trust them. Ford walks over to a locker and opens the door to reveal various armors and weaponry. Gear up, kids. We have to make a break for it. Once the gang gets geared up, they run outside the portal before Ford and McGucket say one last goodbye to the creatures on the other side and destroy the portal. So from here, I'm not sure how things would play out, but here's a couple ideas. Since they got technology from Ford and McGucket's lab, it would be cool if we got to see some gadgets or tools they've created be put to use by the group. I'm thinking something crazy like Rick's gadgets from Rick and Morty, except, these don't violently murder people. We could also have some gags in there of agents trying to catch the group through the halls of the mansion, paying homage to Scooby-Doo and Hanna-Barbera, which is kind of an influence for this season. They finally make it to the secret tunnel underneath the mansion, but Agent Smith calls out for the others. They're entering a tunnel in the floor. After them. Everyone is inside, and the last one is McGucket until he realizes there's no lock on the door. He looks one last time at the group, saying to go on without him. Ford tries to reach out to his former friend, but it's too late, as McGucket kicks over a giant stack of boxes and mechanical junk, landing on the door. Fiddleford puts up a fight, but is eventually cornered by the agents and taken into custody. The gang runs through the forest. As night approaches, they can hear helicopters hovering above, as if the world was closing in on them. Where are we going, Grunkle Ford? To a security van I created a couple years ago in case of an emergency. They make it to this cave in the woods where he reveals a dingy hippie van. Ford shows them how on the inside, it's actually a massive room where they have all the space, appliances, and equipment they'll need. It's kind of like in Harry Potter whenever Harry and the Weasleys went into that tent and it appeared small on the outside, but was actually huge on the inside using magic. Except here it's a mixture of science and the supernatural. They hop in the van as hippie animatronics built by McGucket drive the vehicle out of Gravity Falls. We cut to later, and once they're on the road heading out as far east as possible, Mabel stops Ford and Stan. Okay, now that we're basically wanted fugitives just sitting around, could you please tell us what the heck is going on? Stanley and I were planning to come this summer, like we always have. But before you arrived, something went wrong. He goes into a story of how he and Stanley were doing what they've been doing for years, traveling the sea to distant lands in search of treasure and scientific discoveries. On a dock in the Atlantic about a year ago, Stanley started exhibiting strange interests late at night. He'd appear to fall asleep, but then he would wake up, wanting to get better knowledge of science and research like Ford did. On their various travels, I think it would be a cool idea if Stanley taught Ford some street smarts and people skills, since it was something that was never inherently his strong suit. Since Stanley is teaching Ford these skills, Stanley only feels it's natural to try and pick up on some science stuff from Ford. At the time, Ford thought nothing of it. He was proud of his brother taking an interest in science, but the next morning, Stanley woke up exhausted. He didn't remember anything from the previous night. It wasn't until Ford would explain what was taught that Stanley would somewhat remember. He did this again for 3 nights in a row. Be super curious about science and then the next day, completely forget. One night, Ford decided not to teach Stanley anything. Despite Stanley getting irritated, Ford still put his foot down. Again, at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I told him if he wanted to learn science so badly, then just go into my study and read my research journals. For months, he did this until we finally came back to Gravity Falls, a month before Dipper and Mabel. We were planning to stay at the Mystery Shack, but Seuss left a note on the door saying, and I quote, "4 stands, Shack is closed, Melody is out of town. I'm going to see the visionary himself perform in Portland." Whatever that meant. Little Big Dog! I wanted to go see a Little Big Dog. As they made their way into town, they noticed how federal agents were everywhere. Put off by their presence, they decided to head to McGucket's where he let them stay. However, by morning, Ford couldn't find Stanley anywhere. He and McGucket raced around town trying to find him. He wasn't even at the Mystery Shack, but luckily Seuss was kind enough to help them look. As nighttime fell, they became increasingly worried, and that's when McGucket found out he had several pieces of equipment missing. Ford tried to make a connection with what he took to something he'd do, but nothing made sense. Unless Ford began to draw out an equation with the proper tools associated with it. Stanley was trying to create a machine to break the barrier of Gravity Falls. Wait, what barrier? Gravity Falls' natural law of weirdness magnetism. He goes on to explain the concept of how there's some kind of force within the town that attracts weird things to it. It's also the same force that kept Weirdmageddon from spreading across the world. But why was Stan trying to break the barrier? That's what I wanted to find out. We found him in the woods, but by then it was too late. We cut back to the story. Stanley has a machine that's starting up in the woods. Stanley, what have you done? When he makes it to him, he notices something isn't right. It's almost as if he was sleepwalking. Ford grabs him by the shoulders. Stanley, wake up! Can you hear me? He's unresponsive. Ford goes over to the machine to try and stop it, but that's when Stanley lunges at Ford, punching him across the face. A fight breaks out between the two and Stanley, but Seuss manages to get the upper hand and destroy the machine in time. Stanley, why did you do this?
Sorry, Fordsy. Stan isn't here right now, but I will be very soon.
Ford, where am I? What's going on? Stanley, do you have any idea what you just did? What? No. Why are we in the middle of the woods? Ugh, it feels like I haven't slept in days. What's happening? What the heck, dude? Ford then rips a piece of cloth to cover Stanley's eyes. He goes over to McGucket and whispers, "We need to take him somewhere no one can find, where he won't know where he is. Do you have a place?" "I have a basement for my projects." "Good. We'll keep him there. Right now, I need to focus on making a portal." "The portal? No, you can't. Not again. I have no choice. If my theory is right. But we'll never know if I can't build it. Will someone please answer me? This whole situation is making me, super nervous." Seuss, that isn't Stanley. I think it might be Bill. That's impossible. We destroyed Bill. No, Dipper, we didn't. Alright, just get the memes out now, because I can see them coming in those comments.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
I thought we destroyed Bill by using the memory gun, but when Stanley got his memories back, I believe somehow Bill was able to gain control over his mind, but only when he was asleep. It explains why he was so tired. His body and part of his mind never got to rest. I took him to McGucket's laboratory where I was able to design the portal and head to a dimension where Stanley could get the help he needed. McGucket would help me most days, but I had Seuss keep this secret. So that's where you've been all this time. And that explains why Seuss has been acting weird this summer. Well, you could have reached out. We could have been helping you. You don't think I know that? All I wanted was to see you and your sister, but it was too dangerous. I didn't want you to see me like that. Any chance the real me got to come out, I made it clear you two could never know I was there. Anytime I slept, Bill was making me say and do terrible things. If anything happened, I wouldn't want that to be your last memory of me. The twins are moved by his words. Though they're upset, they know he's right. And there was another reason. During this time, Seuss kept me updated on what was happening, not only to know what was going on with YouTube, but what was happening in the town. With federal agents present, I didn't want them catching wind of my operation. The kind of power used by the portal and Bill's spirit doesn't need to be in the hands of anyone, let alone the government. Luckily, when you broke in, you were able to get past McGucket security, and we were able to cure Stanley in time. So that shiny yellow stuff, that was him? Yes. Those creatures you saw were allies during my time dimension hopping. They understand the threat Bill possesses and they are disposing of him as we speak. Dipper shakes his head. It still doesn't make sense. If bringing back Grunkle Stan's memories brought Bill back, why is he acting out now? As the group thinks, Pacifica pops in. Wait a minute, You said Stanley was acting strange a year ago, right? Correct. I don't know how I became the genius, but okay. What other weird things started happening around a year ago in Gravity Falls? The anomalies? Yes. We know Gravity Falls attracts weird stuff because of that magnet thing you mentioned. Gravity Falls' natural law of, yeah, that thing. Anyway, it can't just be a coincidence that Stanley started showing signs of Bill the same time scary creatures started showing up in town. We shouldn't be asking what happened to Stanley to bring Bill back. We should be asking what happened in the world to bring Bill out of Stanley. Pacifica, you're right. Of course I am. If something's triggered dark entities to come into Gravity Falls, that same force might have awakened Bill inside Stanley. Melody sees Seuss with his face in his hands. Are you okay? Huh, I'm totally fine. This conversation's just making my head hurt. Ford thinks this over. This is an intriguing theory. I'll have to think it over. But for now, we need to keep a low profile. Knowing Bill, he won't stop. The twins go to Stanley as he begins to apologize for the lies and tribulation they were put through. With a better understanding, they forgive him and embrace in a group hug. We cut to later to see the Oracle's allies in a dark dimension. They head up a mountain where a lava-like substance flows. Hand it here. Just as he's about to dunk it in, they hear something out in the distance. And that was just the first episode. Do you see why this took so long to make? Going forward, the stage is now set for us to not only have more one-off episodes, but to also explore this world in ways we've never seen before. Since they're spending their time in the Midwest area, it would be cool if in the towns they stop at, they have to solve some kind of mystery going on, paying homage to those Hanna-Barbera cartoons I was bringing up earlier. Why? Because I like Scooby-Doo, and this is my pitch. As far as what they're doing besides escaping the law and solving mysteries, there's still some character stuff that I would want to showcase. While on the road, everyone essentially cuts themselves off from the outside world. Ford doesn't want anyone to be tracked, so he has them confiscate their cell phones. Mabel says she left hers at the shack. Hopefully no one will find it there. However, when she's alone, we see her pull out her phone. She knows it's bad to do this, but she has to do something. She sends a simple message to Grinda and Candy, telling them the group is okay and they're hiding. Since Ford is trying to solve everything going on with Bill and the anomalies, it would be cool if we got to see Dipper help him with these investigations. It was a relationship we barely got to see in the original series, so it would be cool if we got to see the two of them interact more. We also see during this time Ford is very down on himself. If he hadn't done this irresponsible research years ago, none of this would have happened. Stanley and the twins try to encourage him to look past it, but he still feels awful. He's overwhelmed by this sense of guilt and feels the need to take responsibility for what he's unleashed upon the world. During the investigation, Ford doesn't fully know how Bill came back, but he has a theory which is as follows. When Weirdmageddon happened, they were about to perform a ritual that would unleash a power strong enough to defeat Bill once and for all. Only they never finished it. He realizes they have to recreate the Zodiac prophecy to put a stop to not only Bill, but these anomalies from spreading across Gravity Falls and the world. Now they have a new mission. Find Robbie Valentino and Gideon Gleeful to perform the ritual. Robbie is currently on tour across the states and has a concert coming up in 3 weeks in New York. In order to get Gideon there, however, Mabel offers to send a letter to him saying to come to the concert and be her true love. It's a little jacked up, but it's the only option they have since they need him now, and he's currently residing in South America of all places. I'll expand on that later. But in the meantime, here are some ideas that would happen on the road, starting with Pacifica and Dipper are now in the early stages of a relationship, and it could be cool navigating the complexities of new romance. Maybe as they're about to go on their first date inside a secluded, low-profile town, members of the group split up and they're trying to tell Dipper and Pacifica what to do, with both of them by the end realizing that just being themselves is enough for each other. I think the way with the plot is set up as kind of a road trip, it gives us the opportunity to showcase character dynamics we've never thought of before. I'm thinking of something along the lines of Steve and Dustin from Stranger Things. When you saw the first season, no one would have ever thought putting the two together, but after season 2, you can't imagine the show without their friendship. So I want to do the same here for these characters. One that I like the idea of is Mabel and Ford going on an adventure. They're so different in their personalities, but I think that's why they would work. Since Mabel takes after Stanley and Dipper takes after Ford, it could be an interesting way for each personality type to understand their twin in a different way. Another one that could be cool is Pacifica hanging out with either Wendy or Stanley. It would be interesting to see how Pacifica would deal with Dipper's former crush. It could be a lesson for Pacifica to overcome jealousy. As with her and Stanley, it could be cool if it turns out since they have such strong personalities, they find out they have a lot of the same beliefs about the world and can bond over it. There could be other character dynamics that could be interesting, but those were just the ones that stuck out to me. After it was revealed that Seuss was trying to keep the secret to protect everyone, it kind of made things awkward between him and Melody. She understands his reasoning, but she brings up the fact that they're married now. Trust and honesty is what's most important, and if they don't have that, then what do they have? As I said in my last pitch, I want to continue that journey with them. Not only for Melody to accept that her partner isn't perfect and will make mistakes, but also for Seuss to learn that he can't keep secrets. After the events in the basement, the twins still aren't talking to each other about their future in college. I wouldn't want them to be hostile towards each other or just not talk to each other the entire time because that would just suck to see and would get old really quick. So the adventures on the road, they still talk. They still go on missions together, but it's kind of an unsaid rule that they aren't alone together. Not just by the group, but the twins themselves. While this may seem like a petty thing to be mad about, it's reaching at something deeper in the characters that's never been fully addressed. Now for one of my most anticipated parts of this pitch, which is everything in... There was one plotline in the original series that did not get the proper amount of screen time. It was everything involving the government agents. The reason I loved this is because it brought a certain gravity, no pun intended, to the situation, not only revolving around Stanley, but the overarching mystery of the story. Due to the crazy weirdness the show exposes us to, the inclusion of government agents just brought a certain sense of realism and credibility to the threats in this small town. When season 2 of the original show started, I thought that whole plotline was going to have a much bigger role, but after the episode Not What He Seems, it was kind of just brushed off as not a big thing. So going forward, I would want to explore this side of the Gravity Falls world through the eyes of Agent Smith. We get a flashback picking up on the events after the group escaped Gravity Falls from the perspective of the agents. They call in more agents from Fax, but Smith and his team explore the mansion and discover the basement, uncovering the remnants of the destroyed portal. What is this thing? I don't know, but whatever it is, they obviously didn't want us to find out. We need to contact HQ. They need to know what's happening. Even the fact that they got away? Yes, we follow protocol. As I mentioned in part 1, Smith is without a doubt an asshole, but he does follow a clear set of rules. He's not concerned with research, he wants to get rid of all weirdness, and he's willing to sacrifice some, but it's always for what he perceives as the greater good. On top of that, he's willing to be honest and forthright no matter who he's talking to. They call the board of facts and tell them the situation about the anomalies, the Pines family, and some kind of machine they constructed and destroyed. We've solved the mystery, but the culprits have gotten away. We will accept any punishment. Calm down, Agent. You've cracked the case. The Pines family will be dealt with in time. Right now, the director is coming to Gravity Falls to oversee the rest of the mission. The director's coming here? Yes, he is. And as far as you and your team, we have a new mission for you. We then have a montage as the board gives them the rundown of what they need to do. They begin setting up walls around the town with more established checkpoints and higher amounts of security. It's like the town has become a giant prison. Oh, and they actually build a high security prison in the town as well. The reason given is because dangerous individuals have escaped. The Pines, the Ramirezes, Wendy, and Pacifica. They say this group was conducting illegal experiments. It's the reason for the anomalies and the town's inherent weirdness. Everything we're doing is for your protection. The town immediately hates this. They try to boo them out, but the agents have all the power, so they end up complying. As a way to lighten things up on this side of the story, I feel like this is a good opportunity to give the spotlight to characters I didn't even fully talk about in my last pitch, which is Candy and Grenda. For anyone who's seen my Gravity Falls tier list video, you know I'm not a big fan of these two. They're fine in moderation, but for me, they got pretty annoying after a while in the original show. But with the setup I now have, I feel like we could see a potentially more serious side to these characters. We could see how they immediately see through the BS of the agents, and after they get the text message from Mabel and they know the group is okay, they decide to work together not only for the sake of the town, but to clear their friends' names. But how are they going to do that? Agents have taken over the Mystery Shack, McGucket's in jail. How are we going to beat them? Well, McGucket is in prison right now, and he's the only one that knows where they went potentially. So all we gotta do is break McGucket out. Or we just go visit him during visiting hours. Yeah, that works too. They go inside the prison, and to their shock, it's not just McGucket locked up. The Corduroys, Nathaniel Northwest, and some others are in jail. They ask McGucket why they're here, and he says they're arresting the families associated with the Pines without due process. That's when Agent Smith comes in. Alright, that's enough chit-chat. Out you two go. How could you just arrest them? You know they did nothing wrong. Sorry, girls. I'm just following orders. Yeah, well, your orders suck. As they leave with no information gained, we see Smith look around to all these people imprisoned. For the briefest second, we see a wave of guilt come over his face. Agent Smith, the director is here, and he wishes to see you. He goes into a back office, and that's when we see the director for the first time. No, this does not mean I'm doing a Rick and Morty crossover. Or am I? Nah, I'm just kidding. Or am I? The director congratulates him on a job well done. I must admit, I didn't think you had it in you, but you're proving to be a better agent than your father ever was. I know you're still trying to prove yourself, but in my eyes, you've cleared your family's name. Thank you, sir. Are you sure you don't want to change it back? The name Powers has a better ring to it than Smith. Not until my mission is fully completed. Yep. Some of y'all called it Agent Smith is the son of Agent Powers from the original series. In my canon, we learned that when the agents come back to Washington, D.C., the government shuts down their program due to their lack of evidence and memory. Now, I will admit this next part is a little out there, but come on, so's the show. We see how Powers was part of a secret faction of the government, facts, where he and his family are all training to become agents. They live in a secluded neighborhood where on the surface it looks like a regular suburbia, but in reality it's an entire facility harboring families to become spies. When Powers comes back, he's brought shame upon his family, and now a young Smith is bullied by his peers. Due to this disgrace, Smith has always felt a burden to prove himself and his family, so he became top of his class and was able to reinstate facts as a secret government agency. Everything he's done is not only because he believes in this institution, but to also clear his family's name. The more we dig into Smith's backstory, the more we can see how this agency works. Since Gravity Falls has always been a show celebrating cryptids and the supernatural, it would be cool to have something like the SCP in the universe. For those of you who don't know what the SCP is, just go look it up. This video is long enough. Smith brings up how he's admittedly uncomfortable taking in families as prisoners. It's official protocol to bring them in for questioning, observation even, but to just hold them here? It's against the rules, sir. I don't like it. The director just laughs at him. He says that in order to get rid of this town's weirdness, they need to take control by any means necessary. Isn't that something you did while you were here? With all due respect, everything I did was in the rules and regulations. Oh, just stop it. The director hands him a booklet. I have a new assignment for you and your team. I need you to hunt down the Pines family. How can we? We have no clue where they are or where they're going. Intel has gotten back to me. We have an idea. In order to find the Pines, we need to locate these two individuals. There's more information in the pamphlet. Just follow the plan as specified and your mission will be complete. Understood. We pan to the photos the director showed Smith. Gideon Gleeful and Robbie Valentino. Y'all starting to put things together? As I've shown, Smith is starting to feel uncomfortable with the orders he's now been given. The director isn't a super main character, but when we do get to see him, there is something slightly off with him. There may be, in fact, something more mysterious happening. In the meantime, with Grinda and Candy at their wits' end, they end up building an underground resistance group, gathering the popular side characters of the show to help take back their town. Maybe there could be a funny bit homaging Red Dawn as they resist the agents, but Phineas and Ferb already beat me to that joke. As they help start this group, Candy continues to message Mabel about what's going on in Gravity Falls. Since she's very smart, she creates a chip that isn't tracked by anyone within the town. How is this possible? I don't know. It's the magic of science. Woo! Though she knows and tells Mabel not to message back, she thinks it's important to let her friend know what's going on. We see Mabel sneak her phone out every night to read the messages from Candy, growing angrier by the minute by what the agents are doing and what's happening to the town. Everything culminates in the episode which I call... It's around 3 weeks later on the road. The group has gotten along and the relationships have all been mended. All but one. Dipper and Mabel. When she sees him sitting alone, Mabel takes this time to talk. She tries to talk about what went down in the basement, but Dipper doesn't want to hear it. With everything that's happened, it's the last thing he wants to deal with. She keeps crying for an answer, but he finally stops her. Mabel, I don't want to do this right now. Why? Look, I know it's uncomfortable, but we need to talk about the future. The future isn't even going to happen if we don't perform this ritual. We can talk about it later, okay? Okay. Guys, what's that noise? Pacifica looks out a window and sees a giant glowing beam soar across the sky. Mr. Ford, what is that? He rushes to the window as a beam shoots overhead. Everyone get down! What was that? I don't know. Suddenly, a dragon-like bird with tentacles in its mouth screeches in front of their RV before leaping above it and picking it up, soaring them across the skies. The group begins to fight it off any way they can until it finally releases them and they slam back to the ground. Ford and Stanley run outside with weapons as they see the creature fly away into the night. Could it be? It is. That's an anomaly. How is that even possible? We're nowhere near Gravity Falls. Wait, we've been running into weird stuff this whole trip. Why are we freaking out over this thing? Weirdness can exist outside Gravity Falls, but this was different. That was an anomaly. And the fact that we just ran into one means the equation. It's been solved. What? How do you know? The beam we saw just before the creature attacked. The law shows us that Gravity Falls attracts weirdness into the town. Not only that, anomalies are kept in by the barrier, but when it's gone, the floodgates are essentially open. With no barrier protecting the world, anomalies will begin to appear everywhere. Stanley shakes his head. I thought we destroyed everything back in the lab. How could anyone have solved the equation if you're the only one that knows how to solve it? The Oracle's allies. Something must have happened to them. Maybe? I don't know. Guys, what if it was the agents? It's what Pacifica said several weeks ago. The anomaly showed up a year ago. That's when Stanley was possessed by Bill, and that's when the agents showed up at Gravity Falls. What if there's people in Fax that want the barrier gone? What if someone in there is also an agent of Bill? This theory doesn't make sense with the ways we know Bill operates, but it's the best we've got. Ford looks out the window to see a sign for New York City. We have to perform this ritual. I have to make this right. They finally get to New York and the group is stunned by the sights. For most of them, they've never been to a city, let alone one so big and iconic. Stanley frowns. I don't like it. New York is basically New Jersey with a fancy aesthetic, not to mention all the pretentious hipsters that come from Los Angeles. Stanley grabs Dipper and glares into his soul. Never lose her, Dipper. Never lose her. Okay. They make it to Robbie's venue hours before the event. Robbie comes from around the corner with Tambry. Wendy? Is that you? And Mr. Pines? Well, looks like you finally got my name right. What? That's what I've always called you. Tambry runs up to her old friend. How are you? Are you guys here to see us perform? I wish, but Ford steps up. We unfortunately need Robbie to come with us. I'm sorry guys, but we're kind of famous now. If you want to interview us, it's gonna cost you, but don't worry, there's a friends and family discount. Ugh, we don't want to interview you. We need you in order to save the world. We cut to later as they're backstage. They told Robbie the whole story. He and Tambry are in shock. She brings up the importance of the show, but Robbie, in a surprisingly mature moment, says he has to go with them. After all, what's the point of going on a worldwide tour if there's no world to tour? She agrees, but only if she can go with them. They go to leave, but suddenly, venue staff blocks the exits. Guys, what are you doing? One guard steps forward. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you aren't going anywhere. The group is taken aback as they're now surrounded by agents. How did you even find us? Intel gathered tells us you need Robbie Valentino and Gideon Gleeful to perform some ritual to end the world. And I won't let that happen. Smith, please just listen to me. If you care about saving the world, you'll let us go. Why would I trust a group of people who built a doomsday weapon? Just listen, okay? There's someone in Fax that wants to bring more anomalies into the world. They're working for an interdimensional demon named Bill Cipher. Anomalies are about to start appearing all over the country unless you help us stop them. And why would I believe you? And why should we believe you? We aren't going to end up in prison like all the rest of Gravity Falls. The group sits in silence for a second before turning to meet her gaze. What do you mean in prison? How do you know what's happening in Gravity Falls? Mabel, what did you do? Suddenly, they begin to hear screams outside. They run out to a crowd of people running past them. There's some kind of monster coming their way. The group is just curious. It's a giant kitten? Aw, it's kind of adorable. The group screams in terror as they get into the van and drive off. The agents were too stunned to see this happen. Smith is the one who's most stunned. That's an anomaly. How is it here in New York? Sir, the Pines family is getting away with Robbie Valentino. He snaps back to it. After them. Back with the group, the creature then begins to slither at full speed towards them. They slam on the gas as the van makes its way through the front doors, a space too small for the creature to get through. It roars in frustration as it slithers away. They get out of the car as Mabel shouts in celebration. However, Dipper storms up to her. How did you know what was happening in town? Okay, look. I didn't leave my phone at the shack. I had it with me the whole time. I know it was bad, but I needed to tell Grinda and Candy we were okay. I just sent one message telling them that. She was sending updates over what was happening, but I never responded back. I can't believe this. Hey, but we now know who's ever working at Fax is working for Bill. They would have had to have known our plan from the start, so they didn't track us through me. It doesn't matter. By keeping that secret, you put us all at risk. You always do this. You always act like you care about others, but in reality, all you care about is yourself. Dipper, No, I'm not hearing it anymore. Look at me. I've always been there for you. I've sacrificed so much for your happiness, and what have I gotten in return? I never wanted that from you. Just like I never asked you to leave your dream school behind for me. You never had to. Because we both know you'd never make it without me. Dipper is realizing the weight of his words before they can see the rest of the group uncomfortably waiting on them. Enough, kids. Gideon's flight will be here any minute. They begin walking away as Mabel walks by herself behind the group in shame. They start making their way through the now evacuated airport. The cat snake is striking at helicopters outside. The group realizes that due to this creature, the planes won't be landing here anytime soon. They decide that they have to help get rid of the creature somehow, then go into hiding until Gideon's plane arrives. As they try to come up with a plan to help those outside, that's when they hear Smith and his agents make their way into the airport. So I'm not sure how everything would play out from here. Again, this is just supposed to be a pitch, but as they lurk around, the group ends up in separate sections of a hangar bay. They can all see each other, but an agent standing on guard in the center is blocking the easiest exit. Luckily, Ford and Stanley are in the back corner, where all they have to do is sneak through some offices and they're home free. They signal to everyone else in the hangar to come to them. Most of them make it. All that's left is the twins, Robbie and Tambry. Dipper tells Mabel to go first and she nods. Their relationship is strained, yes, but he wants his sister safe. She starts to sneak by. The agent turns his gaze and orders her to freeze. She runs towards Stan and Ford. She gets blasted with a stun ray. She falls to the ground unconscious. Dipper shouts out to his sister as more agents come in, blasting in their direction. Dipper's group runs away and they end up at a fence. Over it is the Hudson River. Robbie is about to climb over as Dipper is looking back at the hangar. Wait, we can't! We have to go back! Dipper, those agents got them. We have to run. Agents spot them and are starting to run their way. Dipper has no choice. He closes his eyes and he hops over the fence, falling into the river. We cut to later as agents bring the group to Smith. Where are the others? They escaped by jumping into the Hudson, sir. Send boats out now. What do we do with them, sir? Put them in a copter. We're heading back to Gravity Falls. Back in the city, Dipper, Robbie, and Tambry end up washed into a sewer tunnel. Robbie checks on the other two. Tambry, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Dipper, are you good? Dipper? They're gone. I told her what a horrible person she was. That's the last thing I ever told my sister. Come on, man, there's still time. No, there isn't. Even if we got back to the airport, they'd be long gone by now. It's over. Bill's won. What about that Gideon kid? According to my phone, flights are resuming. Agents might be there, yeah, but we can still solve a piece of the puzzle. If we get to him, we can still have a chance to stop Bill. What do you say, kid? The group lands inside Gravity Falls and are told to land at McGuckett's mansion. The director waits inside the lab as Agent Smith brings the group down. We have teams deployed for the remaining 3, sir. The director turns around with a crazy look in his eyes. Geez, well that's disappointing. Ah well, we have most of them, and that's enough. Smith raises an eyebrow. The director was always odd with his speech. This was different. Smith looks past the director and sees the machine. It's been reconstructed. Sir, why is the machine rebuilt? Ah, you notice what I've been working on. Yeah, I wasn't sure about it at first either, but once this thing is open, we'll have what we've always wanted. Unlimited control. Smith looks to the group, who looks at him with pleading eyes. Sir, we're supposed to dispose of this. It's dangerous. Smith, we're not only going to save the world with this. Once we get this thing fully operational in a couple minutes... A couple minutes? He looks in horror at the machine. Director? I can't let you do this. Shut it down. Well, gosh darn it. Agents flood the room, aiming their blasters at him. I didn't want to have to do this, but you left me no choice. You could have been one of us. In fact, he gave you that same opportunity. Isn't that right? Stanford Pines. The director turns his gaze to Ford. So, it really is you. No, he's not here with us, but he will be real soon. Before anything happens, tell me, how did he do it? Oh, it's a lot, trust me, the director says as he pulls out a book. But that's a story for another time. We see not only Gravity Falls, but cities from across the world fall into darkness as giant anomalies take over. Chasms open up across the ground as monsters crawl their way up into the world, attacking everything and everyone around them. We cut back to the portal room as it begins to calm down. The director stands there smiling. Welcome back, Mr. Cypher. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait for part 3. As of right now, Bill Cypher has once again enacted Weirdmageddon. But not just to Gravity Falls, the entire world this time. In part 3, I will definitely be going into his side of the story as well as what's become of Dipper and the others. I'm not sure when it'll come out, but hopefully it'll be able to come out soon and not as late as it was this time, because holy crap, that took a long time. I'm sorry. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the channel. I'll see you guys next time.